day 2 of this amazing aspiring entrepreneurs startup bootcamp. Uh, a warm welcome to all our students and our attendees who joined in. Also to Mr. Y.S. Narayan, the CEO of the IIITB Innovation Center, Dr. Milind Gande, our Chief Program Officer of the Machine Intelligence and Robotics Center at IIIT Bangalore, and our speaker of the day, Mr. Ujjwal Trivedi. Thank you so much for taking time off and doing this special session for all the students on the business model canvas. I don't want to stand in between you and an amazing session, my dear students. So here we go. Is a small introduction about Ujjwal. He completed his B in Electronics and Communication in 2005 and has worked in multiple companies, multiple positions as a business analyst, product manager, as a senior project manager with Coupon Dunia, as a vice president at R2, and now serves as a senior director of projects at MoveInSync. He currently leads product growth. He currently leads product and growth for WorkInSync, that which helps managing the chaos called hybrid workspaces, and in the process makes offices great again. Earlier, he has led the SaaS product team that manages about 3 million trips every month. The automation, the AI-based routing, scheduling, analytics, billing, and was responsible for product strategy and growth. Earlier, he also managed the product roadmap for R2's fintech, making lenders smarter, more productive by using the power of machine learning and cognitive sciences. Another very important thing, very noteworthy of mentioning, is that he served in multiple positions at the Head Start Network Foundation as a city lead, as a member of the national core team, and now as a director on one mission. And I think that's why he's here. The mission is to change the world through entrepreneurship, focusing on encouraging 100,000 new SMEs and startups that can employ 100 people on an average. That's 1 crore new jobs in the next 5 years. And if you want to be part of this, you can talk to him after the session. Thank you so much, Ujjwal, for actually accepting our invitation and actually, helping our students to get to the next level. Thank you very much and welcome.
Thanks.
And
thank you. Yeah, thanks, Karthik, and thank you, Dr. Gandhe and Mr. Narayan, all of you for actually making this, taking lead. I'd like to congratulate IIIT for, starting something like this, and we need a lot of such initiatives from a lot of other academic institutions, and we need to take entrepreneurship to every nook and corner of the country, and thank you for taking lead on this, and I'm hopeful that we've got about 70 odd folks here. I'm sure you would be able to take something away from my experiences of last 15-16 years and last 8-9 years of working with a lot of startups and helping them build better products. So I, this is typically, I mean, a business, a business model canvas is typically like a 2-day workshop that we, take. But yeah, I would like to, reduce and try to put everything in the next 30-40 minutes and open the thing to Q&A. So how I would love to do it is, if you have any questions, you guys can put it on the chat, and I'm assuming everyone has access to chat, so you can put it on the chat, and I would keep revisiting chat every 5-10 minutes, and we will go through the questions, and I will try to answer any of the questions.
There's Q&A section also. Sorry to barge in. So there's a Q&A section also. It's best we put it there so we can sort it out, right, on the Q&A.
Sure. So you put it on the chat. I will try to take it in middle, or I'll try to take it towards the end as well. But yeah, I would totally like if you want to, take it in the middle. If you have any pertinent question on any particular topic, we can talk about that. All right. So the theme that we talked about that we decided to talk about today was business model canvas. So because it's a startup sort of it's an entrepreneur's workshop. I would actually like to talk about lean canvas, which is a flavor of the business model canvas, but it is more tuned for the startups. So I'll just quickly share my screen, and we can then take it from there. So are you guys able to see the screen?
Yes, sir, we are able to see.
Cool. It is just quickly loading. I hope it is now visible. All right. So we will just, talk about, how to build uh, better products and better startups by following lean, and by using the lean model canvas, which is, as I said, is a flavor of a business model canvas. All right, so quickly about me. I mean, I think has already introduced what I do. So I'm a products person. I work at MoveInSync. I'm also a director at a not-for-profit called Head Start, which is about establishing startup ecosystems and helping startups win. Right. So if you have a sort of startup already, 0 to 6 months, in fact 0 to 2 years, and you are looking for more mentoring, investment and things like that, feel free to ping me on Twitter or LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to see how we can help you. UV Times is my blog, and that's why I kind of keep sharing my rough notes and learning. This is what we'll talk about today. We'll start from the art of problems, and then get more discover the other sections of. So we'll deep dive into the problems section, and we'll discover the other, or explore the other sections of the lean canvas. um, so as I said, feel free to ask questions wherever you have. All right. So typically, and I've been doing sessions at multiple IITs, IIMs. I think this is the first time that I'm talking to at a triple IT event, but yeah, I've been doing this a lot, and working with a lot of different college level startup ideas, and even early stage startups, not from students also. What I've seen is that typically they all come in one of these categories, t-shirt printing for college fest, or e-commerce for art, or event management for whatever XYZ niche, right? So event management for some specific niche instead of generally event management. Then aggregator for whatever, a lot of different things. So it could be salons, spas, photo studios, kirana stores, buses. Uh, then a lot of people, particularly in the tier 2, 3, also bring in ideas of enabling and helping with local tourism. And then in the agri-tech, a lot of people actually come up with ideas on virtual mandi, kind of, or some supply chain sort of uh, solutions for the farmers, for the agriculture, for the agri market, right? So why I wanted to start with these is that a lot of you might feel that, oh, this, yeah, somewhere, my idea is somewhat similar to this. What I'm trying to tell here is that a lot of these ideas are non-unique, right? But that doesn't mean that they are necessarily good or bad, right? So that one thing, if you have to take away today, is that no startup idea is either good or bad, right? So in fact, a lot of people come to me to bounce off ideas, and ask me what do I think about them. I say that I don't know. I don't think about anything about them. What I can tell you is how can you validate whether, or how can you find out whether the idea is good or bad. And that is what you should do. You should, like, you can't really ask anyone. And when I say anyone, I mean even the customer who says they will pay you money, even the not your friends, not your partners, business partners, or even an expert who is running a startup in a similar space. Nobody can actually tell you whether this idea is going to click or not, because it is very less dependent on the ideas and a lot dependent on how you execute it, right? So that is my focus, and that is also the primary reason why I strongly suggest that nobody should be afraid of sharing their ideas, and be very secretive about what they are building, right? Instead, you might actually want to talk about it more, because nobody is actually as excited about that idea, your idea, as you are, right? So if you just think about how excited you are about anyone else's idea, right? It is the same thing for them, right? So they would not be as excited about your idea as you are, and you are most likely to execute it better. But by sharing it, you are likely to get connects, you're likely to get feedback, you're likely to get information or knowledge that you would otherwise not get if you're too secretive about your ideas. So at this level, a lot of people think that, no, I would want to hold on to my idea, not want to share it with anyone. I would just want to bring that uh, and to light, and talk about that you shouldn't be holding on to the ideas, because it just gets killed more often than it gets used, right? So make sure that most of your ideas are non-unique, most of them, right? And the more you talk about it, the better it would be for you and for the community. Cool. So, jumping on, why should we validate ideas, right? So, there's a quick, sample from 2016. Um, there's a list of these startups that have raised and then you can see, like, some have got $100,000, some have got $120,000, 2 million, right? $500,000, $46 million, like lot of money these guys might have raised, but they still actually shut shop. So what does that tell us? Like, why did they shut shop? um, 25% failed due to team or personal withdrawals, 18% due to funds and money. So only 18% actually failed because of financial reasons. 61% of people were not able to leverage the ecosystem. They created something that nobody want, or they did not pivot in time, or they created something that was outcompeted by their peers, right? So make sure that you share ideas, you listen into other ideas, you try to be very, very attentive to uh, what is the use of what you're trying to build, and what is the real problem that you're solving, and then you would hopefully be able to create something that people want. And that's like will take you closer to success. All right, so can everyone quickly look at this sign and tell me what it is, or what does it stand for, what phrase does it stand for? So I'll just quickly, in fact, look at see if I can open chat. Oh, yes. Yeah, it's a Nike thing, but yeah, Satvik, I think, got it right. Just do it. Uh, Pali, Aditya, Sriram, Pranav, yes. So this is about, just do it. And that is one of the bigger problems that, you know, people think of a solution. That's how we think. That we see a problem, we think of a solution, and we jump right into doing what we want to do. I mean, you should totally uh, have a very strong bias towards action. But when we say action, we want you to do something. We don't want to hold on and think about it. But that doesn't mean that you start building. The problem is that people start building solution without doing the kind of research that they should be doing, and that is what the problem is, right? So I just walk you through a very typical natural way of things, how they occur, right? So you think of a solution, and then you build that solution, and then you think of a problem that, okay, I have got this app ready. Now what problem does it solve? And then you look for, okay, who have this problem. So let me go to, like, how would I find customers? I'll build something, and then I'll look for, okay, what problem does it solve, or what problems it might solve, and then I'll go look for customers. And believe me, if you are doing it, I have been in companies, plural, that have actually done that. We have built solutions and then looked at what problems does it solve, or what else could it do. And then we have also gone in search of customers. We have wasted a lot of marketing money, and this is a lot of it, of course, is theory, it's like a theoretical concept. It is what has is very popularly, very naturally happens to a lot of people who are not cognizant of this fact, right? So when we think of a solution, we solutions is what inspire us, not the problems, actually, right? So when we get inspired by the ideas, we start, and we have a power. So we are, a lot of us might be techies here. We have the power to build stuff. We get on to building it, right? And that's where things go slightly awry, right? So we'll understand how. So it is, we also call it the hammer first way, right? So if you take a hammer, if you have a hammer in your hand, and I'm not sure if you've felt it, but you can actually try it out. Try to find a hammer or a very big block of thing, that you can bang something with. And then when you start looking around, you feel that everything starts looking like a nail, right? So you will feel like you could probably do a little bang bang here, and a little everything seems like it could use a little hammering, right? So we call it a hammer first way, that you build something and then try to look at the world in a very different way, and then everything which is not really a problem, right, starts looking like a problem. That, oh, now, yeah, this can have a little hammering, or this can be hammered, or this can be corrected, a lot of things like that. So that is where it goes wrong, and that's what we are trying to fix today, right? So whenever you have an idea, and that has to come first, right? You would never look at problem and say, wow, what a problem, this is what I should solve. No, you would always, or most of the time, I would try to stay away from generalizing by calling it always, but most of the time you would get ideas that would inspire you, and that then you would want to proceed from there. So once you have that idea, you have that motivation to do something, what should you do? You should look for the customers straight away, right? I have got this idea. Who do you think you should target? Who would use such a thing, right? And then look for what is the problem. So your customer is X, X has Y problem, and then comes your solution, which is Z, which is like X has Y problem and solved by Z, and that completes the process, right? And now, how do you basically figure out the problems? How do you figure out who the customer is and all of that? So this entire process is made very, very simple by so typically, I mean, earlier in the earlier in the days, we used to have something called business model, or a business document that you had to write. So it was like a huge business proposal that you have to write, which defines a bunch of these things, right? So this is not like a completely innovative concept. It always existed. Like, this is what a typical business proposal would always have. But one is that, of course, it has more nuanced approach towards startups. It looks for, or it tries to identify the problem and the solution. Instead of having a 5-year plan, it looks for getting the problem solution fit, right? So the first thing that you do is look at the segment on the top right. That is customer segments. uh, and you try to look or list down all the things that all the customers that customer profiles that you would potentially uh, target, right? Now, when you're doing this, try to avoid the words always and every, right? Because every time you do that, you you should get alert that, yeah, if I say, I mean, typically how people write a customer segment is urban, 20 to 40 years male. Now that covers all financial uh, strata, like all financial profiles. So you've not talked about how much this guy must be earning in order to be using your product, right? Would your would the auto wala use this product? Would the would your bus driver use this product? Would your maid use this product? Would your you know would a primary teacher or a housewife use this product, right? So don't go as broad as just defining a demographic. Go into the very, very specifics, right? That you know what are, so typically what are those people doing, right? Or what are those niche that would love your idea or would want to use your product for their specific thing. That is what you list down, and there could be multiple segments which you can. So this is like a worksheet, right? It is not a thing that you create and present to someone or submit somewhere. This is for you, right? So you can maybe you can just put in whatever comes to mind immediately. And yeah, another thing that I want to tell you is that when I think there is a at the end of the session, you will be asked to create a lean model canvas for yourself. Please spend, I mean, gather your team, all your co-founders, and spend only 20 minutes filling this, right? So whatever comes to mind in this 20 minutes, you should just put it, right? And if you can't do it, try hard to fill on all the sections. If you can't do it, then leave those sections empty. But if you are not able to do it in 20 minutes, you don't have clear idea about those sections of your business, right? And it could be all sections. That's also okay, right? So whatever comes to mind, just put it. Only give it 20 minutes, and then after 20 minutes, then you start analyzing it. Then you start running it through with maybe other mentors and amongst each other, and try to understand what how can you make it better, right? So customer segment is something that you list down first. Even if there are more than one customer segments, you feel free to use that. So particularly, like if it's an aggregator model or a marketplace model, there will at least be two sides of it, right? Providers and consumers, so both you can put. And then also try and put towards the end of the section is early adopters. So also list down the characteristics of an early adopter, that if this person is that, I'm sure they will like the first ones to pick this product up and start using it, right? So definitely list down your early adopters also. Of course, if you can't, or if you don't know, you'll have to think about it after 20 minutes. But within that 20 minutes, do as much as possible, and list down the early adopters as well. Um, then so this is the first segment that you fill up, and then you jump onto the problem, right? So now problem is something that I have seen most startup founders and even my peers, product managers, struggle with. Most people sort of look at what their solution is, right, and then twist it around in the same, twist the words to say what problem it must be solving, and then present it to you. That is, that's the worst way to do it, right? When I say problems, you have to look at the entire, uh, you know, the continuum, right? The thing that what is the who is the user, and you've defined the user here, right? You've defined the customer. What is their typical day like? Where exactly their, the pain point arises? Where, how, when are they getting the trigger to get your or use your product? And that trigger comes from a problem. So then, okay, when a person who is doing this must have this problem, or is likely to have this problem, and that's why these are the problems that I'm addressing. And then you look at, or you try and define, defining your solution, and then the other things. But let us first quickly deep dive into the problems, right? So this is, as I said, most people struggle with it. It is hard. uh, you know uh, Two things very quickly. One is the problem that you should write, at least 1 to 3 problems that you're solving, and also list down existing alternatives. So what is, and don't think of alternatives as competitors. Alternatives is alternatives. What would a person be doing if they're not using a product like this, for example, right? They may not be using anything, maybe. Or if they are, then what it likely is, right? So a lot of, I mean, 95% of the SaaS products uh, replace Excel and email, right? So what people were doing on Excel and email is, now that they start using some ticket management tool, some service request management tool, some project management tool, whatever workplace management tool, that something that we are building. Most of our clients are, or corporates, like a Google or an Amazon or a Microsoft. We go to them, and what they are doing, or what they're doing right now, is they're using some sort of tool, that they've built on top of, there's some framework that they've built on top of spreadsheet, right? So most of the times you are replacing, particularly in a SaaS solution, you're replacing Excel and WhatsApp, right? They're not your competitors. They are what Excel is a spreadsheet, or Excel is like a, accounting tool, and WhatsApp is a messenger, and email is what, again, communication tool. But they're not really project management tools or workplace management tools, but they just, people just use those things and get their work done. And that is what your alternatives that people have, and they are going to use that. So look at it from that perspective. What are the alternatives that people are, if they're not using your tool, or they're not using any tool, are they going to use some other tool, or are they going to use something else, right? So those alternatives, I love you to list down. That would give you a lot of perspective. All right, cool. So let's get right into the problem space. So there are four categories of problems. None of them are, as I said, good or bad. The four categories are, latent, passive, active, and urgent. So latent problems are typically problems that user doesn't even know they have this problem. Now you would think, how can that be possible? Or how can I be using, or how could there be a product for something where the problem is not even known? There are, right? So for example, you know a lot of times you would see that mental issues or psychological problems are latent problems. People have this, they have symptoms of that, but they don't really know they have this problem, right? Or even not just for themselves, but even for their family members. They try all sorts of different gimmicks. They don't really understand that they might have a psychological problem. Climate change, right? Everyone sort of like everyone in who is educated, and there's like very few people who are really educated in the masses. So people know that there is climate change, but not everyone understands it really, right? A polythene problem. But yeah, a lot of people, if you see, they're not even aware that what they're using is a problem. Plastic is potentially a carcinogen. or can cause cancer, they don't even know, right? Then there comes passive problems. So passive problems are problems that people know, but they're not doing anything about it, right? So it is like uh, so a lot of bunch of things, right? Like security things, like for example antivirus, right? I know my phone or my laptop can get a virus, and I can potentially get affected by it, but how many people actually have uh, an antivirus, right? Or are effectively using it? Similarly, insurance, you would be, I mean, a lot of you would probably know, but a lot of others would be surprised to know that the penetration of uh, insurance in India is about 20%, 20-25%, right? And it was like 10 years back, it was about 8 to 10%, right? And 80% of people are still not having insurance. And if you look at insurance, or if you know the concept of how it works, you would understand that it is such an important thing. It's just like it's a slam dunk. Yeah, it's just a product that everyone should just use. So why is that everyone is not using it? Is that is something that you uh, should look into. That it is a passive problem, right? So I know about it, but I'm not really doing anything about it, right? And that doesn't mean that insurance products do not exist, right? They do. Antivirus exists, or cyber security products exist. Insurance products exist. Healthcare products exist. But you have to do more marketing. You have to do more awareness programs, and place or position your product in a very different way. Now, third comes the active problems. Active problems are problems that people have, uh, but they're not really they're solving it, but then they're not solving it more elegantly, right? So if you have a 10x better, so they might be using the Excel and the email to solve it, or the Excel and WhatsApp to solve it. And if you give them a great solution, they would be really, really, keen to explore that, right? So mark the words, they're keen to explore, right? They're not really in such a pain that they would maybe buy it immediately, but they might explore, and then they will try and decide something, right? So there is a problem, right? It's like a leaky tap. You first wrap around something, a piece of cloth. Let's see if it works out. And then finally, once the problem becomes urgent, the pipe bursts, is when you get the plumber, right? So this is typically what so I've given some analogies, but that is what you have to apply on any sort of problem that you might have, right? Also, the illustration that you can see, it's like there's a large subset of users needs and users wants, right? And these are two different things, right? I need to go to a gym, I may not want to go to a gym, right? So I want a six pack, right? But I don't want to go to a gym, right? So if you just ask someone that, what, I have an idea, and you will get six packs in 6 weeks, nobody is going to say no to that, right? Because they want it. But that's a wrong question to ask, or that's a wrong way to validate your idea, because you've just asked or framed in such a lucrative way, right? Like, now if you tell them that, okay, now I've actually gone ahead, because you said you want six packs in 6 weeks, I've gone ahead and created a gym, why don't you come to my gym? Like, no, that I don't want, right? So I don't want your product, I want the outcome. So a lot of things are like that. And then at the core of all of these, like needs, wants, and then there are, of course, things that are both needs and wants. There, at the core, there are problems associated with some of these things. There are things which may not have problems associated with it, but then there are things which have problems associated with it. And now those are the things that, if you're solving, if it's a need, if it's a want, or if it's both, you are likely to get a product more successfully out. What does that mean? Even if you're not really solving a big problem, you might still have a product, but then you need a lot more marketing money and patience, right? So it's like a 10-year project that you have to do a lot of awareness campaign, right? A lot of people, in fact, 20 years back, people were not so keen on getting them tested, medically tested, for a lot of things, right? Now, that everyone sort of is very it's very easy to get people for medical tests, and we've seen a extremely high rise in the number of diabetes and cancer and a lot of other diseases. It is not just because of the other things that the diseases are increasing. The testing is also increased, right? So people in India particularly are now more open to getting themselves tested for with different medical tests. So now that is what a market, how the market changes. And the latent problem that people had but nobody was aware of has now sort of kind of become an active problem or a passive problem, and might also become an urgent problem, right, someday. So this is what, like, is how you think about problems, or how you try to understand problems. Once you know what problem, what kind of problem you're solving, you will have a better approach to solving it and better approach to taking it to the people, right? So this is what you do. Once you know the problem, measure the problem. How much of users' life, time, money, or lifestyle or brand depends on it, right? This is what will help you quantify if you are actually solving a big enough problem. So this is what typically a startup is about, right? Startup is all about making a great impact, or solving a problem that is big enough or wide enough, right? So that is what. Otherwise, so there's a then difference between startups and businesses, right? Like businesses have a lot of traditional approach, and startup is something that is innovative, where the business model is not really clear, right? That how would you make money is not really clear, and that is what you are exploring, right? So that state of exploration is when your company is called a, right? All right, so we talked about, X has Y problem, it will be solved by Z. So we, actually explored what the problems look like, and then we come to the solution, and we list down the solutions. And we first try, and once you have the solution out, you should try to understand whether people hate it but still use it, right? And there are products like that. IRCTC 10 years back was a solution that everyone wanted and hated, right? And there are, if you see, there would be others that people don't really love, but because of absence of options, you're just stuck with that kind of product, right? Are people hating and still using it? Are people neutral? Are people liking it, or are people loving the product or loving the solution? That is what you need to understand. And once you find enough people loving your product is when you have what we call as problem solution fit, right? So once you have that, that's the first step towards then looking for a product market fit, right? All right, I'm throwing in some buzzwords. I think I'm hoping you get some of those. If not, maybe note them down, read about it. That's what you have to do a lot anyways. All right, coming on to other sections of the model canvas, I will uh, take up. Let me see if I can take up a few questions. Please explain cost structure. Okay, yeah, I will cover that now. No other questions as it seems. There is a section called Q&A, but I'm not able to access that. I don't know how.
You should be. Okay, this
Just give
is.
me a second.
Yep.
Yeah, I just click on Q&A. It doesn't, like, nothing happens.
So read some of them while Manoj gives you access. Please give an example
Sure,
on how to draft a problem solution and value proposition clearly.
sure.
Another says, should we also point out the problems in the existing alternatives?
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, so as I said, the first thing is to look at, or look at what kind of problems are you trying to solve. And when I say, and probably repeating myself, that do not look at the solution and then convert the same wordings into making it look like a problem, right? what is it going to do for that user. And when I said that, I think what the a good hint for you is this, how much the user's life, time, money, lifestyle, or brand are you, changing, or how much of that would depend, or how much is that affected. So are there, what your what problem you've identified or what solutions you have an idea for, is it going to help people, with their life, with their time, with their money, with their lifestyle, their brand, what is it going to help them with, is what would basically determine what the problem you should list down, right? So list down 1 to 3 problems that you are focusing on, that your customer segment has, right? So a lot of times, in fact, I've seen that you have a customer segment and then you list down problems, and then you will figure that, oh, this customer segment doesn't look like, there is a disconnect right there, so that this customer segment might not really have this kind of a problem, right? So uh, then you describe your solution, outline what is the possible possible solution, and then once you have defined the solution, then you think about what is the unique proposition that you are, what is unique about your solution, why someone have that versus something else, right? Why would someone use your product versus so many other like we talked about alternatives and competitors? Why should someone, what are you bringing to the table that is very, very unique? And what is your unfair advantage? It could be your team, it could be the way you are, you know presenting the idea, or building the product. So for example, there's a lot of solutions that exist on the web, but I'm building something that doesn't exist on app at all, or on the mobile phone, so I'm bringing it to the mobile phone, and that is my unfair advantage. Or I have a team that has cumulatively 30 plus years of experience, and that is my unfair advantage, right? Or I have a team, or I have my advisors, who are like most amazing entrepreneurs who I have on my board. That's my unfair advantage. So there could be multiple unfair advantages. It could be with reference to your product or team or money. I mean, if you are able to raise a lot of fund, that becomes your unfair advantage, right? So what is the unfair advantage that you have is something that you list, right? And every one of you must be at different stages of thinking about, some are thinking about, some are enthusiasts, they're thinking about starting up, versus some others who have already started up 6 months back and now struggling to get their things right. So for all of you, you have to think at what is the unfair advantage that you have as of today, right? Or what are you likely to have when you take your product out to the market, and or give it to the user. What is the unfair advantage you would have? Then so in the unique value proposition, also list down what is your X for Y analogy. So are you building, say for example, Oyo for hospitals, or are you building? So for example, I would describe my company as what we are, what we do. So what is MoveInSync? MoveInSync, we tell people that, yeah, think of it like Uber, but only limited to office space, right? So office commute. So we only take people from, while Uber takes people from A to B place, we take people from office to home, home to office, right? So we are Uber only for office commute, right? So so that is what our high level concept is. But your high level concept, what is it like? Is it something around social media? Then is it LinkedIn like? Is it Facebook like? Is it? And it doesn't necessarily mean that you are copying that concept. I mean, all concepts are copied, right? They're not, nothing is unique, as I described earlier. So feel free to figure out if there is a high level concept, that a high level model that you are going to be following, that would give your pitch and your communication a much better articulation and much better way to communicate to potential buyers, potential investors, and for your team also to know what category you operate in, and how are you going to um, you know uh, go about or take this about, how would you become a leader, right? And then key metrics. So key metrics is all about, what would success look like, what would you measure, right? So if you have, for example, if you're an e-commerce, the number of transactions is like a key metric that you should follow. If you have a social media kind of thing, the number of views or number of visitors, or and also, so not just number of visitors, but how often they visit your product is something that will become a key metric, right? Um, so what is it that you would measure? And of course, it could, always be sales. For it, like if you have a hardware product, it could be, how many units are you able to sell is the most important unit eventually, or most important metrics eventually that you want to measure. Channels is how would you, so the customer segments, right? And what are the existing alternatives they're using, and the early adopters. Now, where are these guys? How would you reach out to them, right? Typically, people would put in Google and Facebook and LinkedIn. Let me also tell you that to uh, get one customer on Facebook today, in general, costs, to get one paid customer on Facebook, it costs around 2,000 rupees, one customer, right? So if you're thinking that, okay, we will do a bunch of ads and we will get a lot of users, think again, right? So it is, it has gotten very costly and is getting costlier by the day. So what are the channels? Are you going to reach out to your early adopters and your customer segment is something that you will write under channels, and that's what you would have to figure out, right? And then cost structure. Typically, what you want to do is, what are your capex and opex? What are your capital costs? What is your one-time cost? What would you need to buy? Is a set of machine, or set of people, or you have to buy some licenses, software, whatever. So what is that? Typically, you would have to invest a large amount in one time, and in case of software, mostly it is very low. And what is the opex? How much salary you will have to pay, or whatever is your, like, server costs, right? Your cloud costs. What are they going to be per month? Because that is going to determine, or even how much are you going to spend on marketing, right? So put in all of those things, and that's your cost structure. So someone asked me, what is the cost structure? It's very simple, just whatever helps you determine how much cost would you incur in the first 6 months or 1 year. Just put that clearly. What are the subheads under which you will actually invest, or what you will spend on. Those are your cost structures. And similarly, how are you going to get the revenues? So typical revenue sources: subscription, transaction, which is sales, selling and getting. So either selling and getting the revenue entirely, or getting a percentage of something, if you have like an affiliate model or a commission based model or whatever. So then that is what you are that's what your revenue model is. Typically, or if you've not really figured out a revenue model, then you can just state that, yeah, we don't really know how would we make money. But in that case, in that unfortunate case, if you're not really figured out, most people think that, yeah, we will have a lot of wide reach, and then we will be able to make money out of ads, or or whatever, reach out, right? So that is another. So transactions, subscription and ads, these are the three typical revenue models you have, or the types of streams you have. But feel free to list down anything and everything that you feel like that, okay, we'll be able to make money out of this, be able to make money out of that. So feel free to put all of those things, and that becomes your revenue streams. And that completes the lean uh, lean business model canvas. And I just quickly want to take other questions. um, yeah, the PPT, yeah, you will get everything that I have written. You will get it on SlideShare. Look for my name, and you will find a bunch of PPTs that I have used in workshops like these. And then this business model canvas is lean canvas. If you look for lean canvas, you will easily find this. So again, a lot of articles are also available, so don't really need this. I am still unable to uh, oh, go into the Q&A section.
Just give me a minute, sir.
Yeah. I'm clicking on it, nothing is happening. Okay, Pranav is asking, as Pranav Kumar this thing, asking how to develop more defensibility in today's era, and what can be strategy if a copy comes put soon similar to our idea if we are service-based idea. So typical service-based ideas are again non-unique and hard to defend, and not in many cases not even a startup, because startup typically is like very high growth, high impact thing, which can be scaled with technology, right? So a typical startup is where you can scale without having to scale your team, right? So services typically can't do that. You would need, like, if you want to grow 10x, you might need proportional increase in the number of people that you have. And yeah, you can only make it efficient with technology, but you cannot scale exponentially with technology. And that's why most of the services are not startups, but yeah, products are something that can be copied hundreds of times, and that's why they become uh, you know easy to call a startup or easy to exponentially grow. How can you develop defensibility for a service? The biggest defensibility is your customer service. So make sure your customers are extremely happy, and that is the only defensibility you might have. What if the customer segment is large but the early sorry okay, Netra Deepak is asking, what if the customer segment is large but the early adopters are expected to be low? That's okay. I mean, early adopters are supposed to be low. You won't get early adopters. Make sure that the early adopters lead you to your larger customer segment. It can't be that, my early adopters are, school teachers, but my final large segment is cab drivers. That can't be, so ensure that is, it is not disconnected. But if you're going for, say, okay, my idea is about employees or companies, and my early adopters would be typically companies in Bangalore who are who are uh, basically 100, or who have 100 odd employees. Now that becomes your early adopter kind of thing. And you can also list down that, this company, this company, this company, these are the 3-4 companies that I want to look for, and they become my early adopters. Others, and then finally, of course, you have early adopters as companies, and your larger market is also companies, so, or small and medium businesses, so it becomes consistent. So if it is not completely disconnected, then it is fine. You should expect that the early adopters would be a small set of people. It will not be very large, of course. That could cause the operation to work under a loss for a while. I don't see these two things connected. Why should your early adopters is low, and that is why you're in loss? Probably. Okay, now I understand. So I think, yeah, it depends on your loss or your risk appetite. If you have money to bear a loss, that's how it would work out. So very general question. I can't really answer that in a very generic way. The only answer is that if you have the money, you should be able to bear a loss for some time, or it should be looked at as an investment. All right. So how much can you invest? How much or when would you need return is something that you'll have to totally work out. Will it be profitable for a startup if their product is solving a problem of government and depends on the support from government to expand, like using a government resources? It may be profitable. Again, very general question. I can't comment on a general basis, but yeah, there are a bunch of ideas where the customer segment is government, right? That we will sell it to local governments, municipalities and municipal corporations, and we will sell it to state government, we will sell it to central governments, and we will sell it to governments in whatever in this country, in that country, in so many other different countries, because yeah, we have a B2G, it's called, in fact there is a segment B2G, business to government kind of product segment. So you can potentially have a profitable product where government is your uh, customer. How do you define a startup? I did that already. So yeah, basically any startup is like, and this is a definition that has come from someone that I look up to, or admire, Stephen Blank. So he defined it as like a temporary phase of an organization where they are exploring their business model, right? So once you're set, once you know where the money will go and how the money will come, then it ceases to be called a startup. Then it is very much a traditional business, right? So you know how to. So you have a playbook. I can create a new one and create something from uh, the start scratch. So again, I can't access Q&A, but I will just try to answer all the things that I can see on chat. How can we monetize fundamental ideas, like something that comes out of research where it is hard to immediately define the customers? Same thing, Pranav. Just follow the same things that I have. I have worked with a lot of people at IISc, have typical research products or research ideas. There is no other way. You have to first understand who are you targeting, who is your target market, who's your customer going to be, what are their problems, of course relevant to your ideas, and how much of the problem are you solving for them. Is it a great solution to their problems? Is it like only half a solution to their problems? Those are the things that you want to understand, and then you'll be able to target them. If you to figure out what channels, you have to figure out what will be your cost structure, you have to figure out what will be your revenue, what is, why would someone buy you, what is your unique proposition, and what would you measure. So all of this is covered here. You have to do the same thing, the same analysis, fill up the lean canvas, and then as I said, it's not a one time activity, it's like a 1 year long. You just continue changing, trying stuff out, coming. And so if your business model canvas or lean canvas is not changing every 2 weeks, then you're not really using it the right way, right? So it has to be updated all the time. Oh, is there a linear way of starting one by one as these? Okay, I'm sorry if I've run out of time. I am okay to take another 10-15 minutes if you
No,
guys
you
are
can go ahead.
okay.
Maybe under half an hour also. If you are okay, we're good.
Sure. All right. Thank
If
you.
it
Thank you so
interests
much.
you
So
and them, I mean, please go ahead. It's
yeah,
really
yeah,
informative. That's why.
surely. Sure, thank you. So it definitely is something that I love to do. So yeah, I'll see how much ever time I can spend. And then yeah, after this session also, like, feel free to connect on LinkedIn or Twitter, and you should be able to find me easily. Someone has also put in the okay, Manoj has put in the slide share. So yeah, I'm not that difficult to find. How can we monetize fundamental ideas? Okay, I answered that. Um, is there a linear way of starting one by one, as these many blanks to fill at a time is confusing? Rohit, startup is hard and extremely confusing, overwhelming, um, hard, a lot of struggle. You would feel like quitting all the time. And this is from my experience of working with startups for last 8 9 years. So if you find this confusing, do think about, think again if you really want to do it, right? You need to have some. This is the most simple thing that you would do in your startup journey. So if you're finding this hard, you're in for a lot of shocking surprises, right? So just get your head around, take it, on a printer, print it on a piece of paper, or maybe use some canvasify kind of tool where you can start listing down. It's just way of articulating your thoughts, right? So these are things that you are already supposed to know if you are starting a business. If you don't know it, it at least tells you that you don't know this, right? So start. I think if you're saying one by one, I have told you first start with customer segment, then come to problems, right? Then you come to solution, then define the unique value proposition, unfair advantage, channels, key metrics, cost structure, revenue. This is your one by one. Shibin, how would we market our product if it is a B2G product? You would have to go talk to the government. That is the only way. So figure that out. How would you go and talk to the government? Who is the government? Who actually buys in the government body? Who takes that decision? This is all that you'll have to figure out. Typically, what are the other products that they are buying? That is a good way to start. So you figure out, if they have to buy something, how would they do it? So, and they are using a lot of products, right? So how are they doing that? How are they placing orders for those products? So figure that out, and then you would see that you would know what are the stakeholders for your product. And typically, I mean, you would know. I mean, if I'll just try to squeeze this thing in, that it is not just one buyer or one user that you have. Typically, it's a chain of stakeholders, right? So whatever product you have, you are not only creating for a user. So there is a difference between user and customer, right? A lot of times, what who you create for or who is the user of the product is not really the customer, right? So the toy companies, for example, they are the user of the product is our kids, but the customers are parents, right? So that was to give you a very striking, very good example that you can very easy for you to understand. But look at any product which you are actually purchasing. A lot of times you are not purchasing for yourself, right? You're purchasing it for someone else, or some, like, there is a person who takes a decision. There is, in particularly in the companies, the stakeholder chain is very long. There is a user, there is a customer, there is a economic buyer, there is a decision maker, and then there is a recommender, there's an influencer, and there's a saboteur, right? So all of these guys are your part of your stakeholder chain, and you have to create the product so that it appeals to each and every of them, right? So you can sell to a customer, and but the user may not like it, right? Or you can sell to you can influence the influencer or the decision maker, but then economic buyer might say no because it is not suiting their budget, right? So all of it has to be um, taken into account. So, and this for B2, B2B, B2, B2, B2C, and B2G product particularly, you have to figure out what are these, what are these stakeholders that you have, for the entire thing. Pranav Bhatt is asking, for societal enterprise, how do you see the market? Very generic question again. I don't really, I mean, social impact startups, and there are funds for it. There are, of course, there is market for most of the things. If the problem is big enough, there is market, right? People are ready, and everyone has money. Everybody wants to solve the problem, but people say not me, but let him pay. One such problem is creating employment. Yeah, that is also what we are trying to solve at Head Start by trying to promote 100,000 new startups, and which will employ, you know, maybe 100 people each, and we will see another crore of employment getting generated. But that's the idea for a not-for-profit that we are running with. There are a bunch of people who could also do it for profit. So yeah, there is. If the problem is large enough, uh, you definitely have a market. Villages migrate for employment, culture-based jobs because of the buzz created in metro cities. Pranav, you are talking about a lot of problems. If you have a specific question, feel free to write. I'll try to answer. How can a startup in tier 2 or 3 city expand in tier 1 cities? Uh, See, one thing I can tell you is Head Start can help you do that. Uh, Again, depends on what kind of startup you have. Are you solving problems for tier 1 cities? People in tier 1 cities, because problems of tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3, India and Nepal and US are all different, right? So we can't really clearly define what is the path, but you potentially can do that. There are startups in smaller cities like a Nagpur or a Bhopal or Jaipur, where who have created SaaS solutions for US and UK and Europe and Australia, and they are very popular in those countries, and they're not even heard of in India. So yeah, all of that is possible. How you do that is depends on what kind of product you have. Is it an art product? Is it a e-commerce kind of product? Is it a social product? Is it a SaaS product? All of them will have different approach. If we help people at the grassroots using IP called geographical indication, we can create self-sustainable communities. Okay, noted. Pranav Vajreshwari, how good is getting technical co-founder versus learning the tech skills fully? Do both. You can't really live or be successful, really successful with one. If you're a techie, you shouldn't be looking for a tech co-founder. You should focus on the tech part of it. I think there's a big problem in Bangalore. There are techies looking for techies to co-found. If you're a techie, you should focus on building stuff and look for sales and marketing guys as co-founders. Um, how to talk to users effectively, especially online mode, if at all it's needed. If at all, I mean, that's the most needed thing, Piram. If you're not talking to the users, you're not really doing anything, right? So as a startup founder, the biggest and most important thing that you do is talk to the users. How to talk to the users? Couple of things I can say. Let me see if I have some slides on that. Do I have? Okay, sorry. Yeah. So a couple of things. One is that don't discuss your solution or don't discuss your idea. Go and try to try to understand their life, of course, relevant to your problems area and product. What are the real problems that they have? How big is that problem? Don't feed into that you must be having this problem. No, try and understand. And if you, even after nudging, if they're not getting into the kind of problem that you imagine that they have, then you know that they probably don't have this problem. If you want, you can ask them, right? That do you really have this kind of problem? And then trust them when they say no or yes or moderately. You have to accept that, move on to other people. So talk to 10, 15, 20, 30 users, right? Unless you talk to them, you would not know anything about what what you should be building, right? And believe me, people are like, how do I find these 30 people? I mean, my dear friend, if you're not able to find 30 people before building the product, how will you find 30 people after building the product? It is the same thing, right? So just find 30 people. If you can't talk to 30 people uh, and understand their problems, and if you can't find a pattern, so forget 30, start with 3, right? Go to first 3 people, and then these 3 are not your friends and family, people who you do not know, and are still potentially your clients. So they may be a friend of a friend of a friend, they may be a friend of a relative, they may be colleagues, acquaintance, or people who really do not know you well. Those are the uh, typically people. Go with a questionnaire, go with a set of questions that you want to ask them, do it in pairs, have someone who can just observe what this guy is thinking, or what he's sulking about, what he's you know accepting, what he's not accepting, what he's telling, what he's not telling, right? So while you focus on asking your questions, noting, making notes, let the other people or the person observe, and then you share notes, and discuss and decide what to what insights to draw from this conversation. So these are few pointers that I can give you. But yeah, focus on discovering the problem and not on selling the solution, right? Forget that you have a solution or an idea. Ask questions. And yeah, one good great way to ask people or hire people for this is that you can tell them that, what, I'm doing research and on whatever XYZ, can I have 30 minutes of your time, right? With that request, if you reach out to any potential person on LinkedIn, you are likely to get a good success rate. If the market is small in developing country yet, but prevalent in developed countries, how should you go on validating ideas? And many are not aware of those kind of services in developing country. Uh, okay. Basically, uh, if you think there's some market today, um, you should be able to find some early adopters, go and talk to them and validate your idea with them. Okay. A large market share of a small market, or a small tiny market share of a large market, what is preferred from a company and investor's perspective? uh, Typically people look for a large market, right? So a tiny share of a large market is what has more likeliness of success, than other way around, right? Small market and completely gathering that market, because then your upside is limited, right? People know that whatever you build for um, XYZ kind of potential customers is only going to go to, say, 1,000 people or 5,000 people or 10,000 people, 100,000 people, not beyond that, right? That's like a small market. And if they are going to even if they're going to give you 1 lakh rupees each, right? So you have a very limited total addressable market, what we call as TAM. So people look at, or investors particularly are, okay, so I'll answer in 2 steps, like, or 2 different ways. If you want to do great impact, great business, you can do either of these. If you want to raise investment, then people prefer large market, right? So over anything else. So I hope that clarifies, right? um how should we build the founding team? What kind of people be the best? So typically, I mean, people with complementary skills, right? I Same mindset or complementary mindset. Mindset typically should be similar. Otherwise, you will have to do a lot of struggle in getting your point across, or understanding their point. So same mindset but complementary skills. All right, I have tried covering most of the questions that I could find on chat. Uh, I'm sorry if I'm unable to still access the Q&A. So if there is something that I couldn't answer, I'll be happy to answer them. You know, in whatever. Like, you can reach out to me on email, or my email is Ujjwal Trivedi at Gmail, and you can reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn. It should be easy to defined. Last words, don't build before you know that what you're building is required and what people would pay for, and create an MVP. You can do customer development or sell the product even before building. There are a bunch of crowdsourcing companies that can help you uh, raise money from real customers before you even create the product. So there are a lot of ideas to validate your startup idea. So make sure that you are doing that, you're not missing out on this very, very critical step. All right, thank you. That's about it, and that's
Yes, yes. Thank you, Ujjwal, for your time and spending time with us. And I hope it was very enlightening. Yes, we will also have them keep in touch, and we do this regularly. On that note, quick few closing comments. I would request Dr. Milind and our CEO YSN. So if I could go over to Dr. Milind Gande for a few closing remarks from you, and later to YSN. Over to you, Dr. Milind.
So, Ujjwal, first of all, thank you so much. I think this was a very grounded, very practical approach to you know. I think really the point that I take away from today's talk is that you have to look at your firm as an overall business. Look at it as a machine where you're sort of putting in effort, and you have to translate that into impact. So that's a very, very nice way of looking at it. I just wanted to add one specific point. I think somebody had asked, how do you create solutions for overseas markets, right? And my personal feeling is that we should not try and create solutions for problems we don't understand intimately. Does that mean we can't serve overseas markets? I think no. Maybe the way to go about it is to find a co-founder who is in that geography. But if you're remote, if you're totally remote, if your entire founding team is remote, then perhaps understanding the requirements of the customers, just finding the sort of first 30 people to talk to that Ujjwal was mentioning would be very hard if the entire founding team is remote. So if you're looking to serve a remote market, my personal choice would be to have at least one of the founders located in the target market geography. I don't know, Ujjwal, what you think about that?
sure. I think that's that's definitely a thing that the more you understand your market, the better it gets. And yeah, the particularly, I mean, these days there are, it's very, very critical. Unless you are the one building the product and you have some experience, very hard for you to work completely remote, right? So yeah, please ensure that you found a team with people who are in vicinity and who are available so this, like, there was a question around mindset. I think the mindset also evolves when you work together, right? So it also changes when you work together. So what I used to think 1 year earlier is different from what I think now, because my, like, a lot of things in my knowledge and a lot of things in how I think has changed based on the people that I've worked with. So yeah, that is definitely there. On the question of creating for other markets versus this market, I would actually go on to based on my experience, sir, most of the people are not even aware of the market that they're in.
Mm.
So it is sort of, it might be a policy to think that, okay, this is a market that we are close to and we understand this better. You might actually do a better job. In fact, you would see that MNCs do a better job in understanding the Indian market Indian psyche than a lot of Indian companies, because again, the same thing, right? Because they think that we understand this market, right? So yeah, I mean, sort of debatable, but yeah, I think whatever you do, whatever market you decide to get on, make sure that you have to get onto that. So if you're deciding to get onto a market that you are not close enough to, then you have to put an extra effort to get that understanding and know it intimately, as you rightly pointed out. So yeah, that's all I wanted to add.
Yeah, but Ujjwal, first, once again, thank you so much. This is a very, very practical, very grounded conversation, and I hope that all the startups in our cohort benefit from this very structured way of approaching the business, right? So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, and over to you, Vayasan, for your closing.
Thank you, Karthik. So thanks, Ujjwal. I think that was really very, very interesting. I just did share this with with the participant also yesterday. So I know I have been like Melinda out here. I too have been in corporates for a very long time. Over 35 years, I have been in the corporate sector with Microsoft, HSBC, Deloitte, etc. And again, in between, I did try my hand at entrepreneurship myself, where I got into an entirely different area. So the point is that if I look back at my own experience and relate it to what you were just saying, a lot of it really makes a lot of sense, because as Milind rightly pointed out, at the end of the day, we have whatever solution or whatever service that a startup is aiming to provide has to meet a business, has to meet a need, customer need in the first place. So typically what I have found is this is a case of putting the cart before the horse, where you create something and then you go about trying to find a customer for it, and whether there's a market for it. And by the time you ended up investing considerable resources in terms of time, effort, money, etc., and that's when the disappointment and the heartburns and ulcers and heartaches start setting in. So what you said, it makes a lot of sense. That yes, it's more been reading a lot, I've been seeing a lot. At the end of the day, there is no magic formula for success anywhere, whether it's in the corporate world or in the world of a much more unpredictable world of startups. But there are some common threads, which is number one, to understand your consumer, understand what makes him or her tick, understand their pain points, understand their needs, whether it is latent or whether it is expressed or something which has got a potential in the future where they may not be able to articulate at this point. And then we go about doing it. So that was the first learning which I personally had, and which got reiterated, of course, from what you were saying. The second part of it was one of the questions asked by one of the participants, which I saw here, was, so when we are building our team, so what we should look at. My personal take on this is very simple. There are two aspects to it. So one is what you said, saying yes, rightly so. You look for people who share your vision for what you want to accomplish. So that's the first part. And second is you complement it with the people who have bring to the table their own unique strengths. So as you said, well, one's core area of competency could be more of in the technical front. There are others who are probably into hardcore operations. Someone could be in sales or marketing. Someone could be in hardcore knowing how to really take it to the customer, the last mile connectivity part of it, the go to customer strategies. So there are a whole host of things where people can bring to the table, complement each other's strengths, and that's in my view is how an effective team can actually be put together. That's number one. Second is, I would personally strongly recommend that when a team is being built, look for people who think differently from yourself. Right? Here we are not talking about values or shared vision. That has to be the same. There has to be a perfect alignment on that front. But when we really look at bringing on board people who think very differently from who we are, and that's how, because we don't need, if two of us are thinking the same thing, then there's no value addition at all. I would much rather look at putting together a team where people think differently, they bring their own unique strengths to the table, and that's how you complement and build a stream, and where you learn from each other, you learn to support each other and complement that, I think. So these are 2 or 3 observations which I actually had now when I was listening to your talk, and I was seeing some of our participants here posing the questions. But beyond that, I really don't have much to add. It's a very, as Billy rightly said, it's a very practical, down-to-earth, very pragmatic way of looking at it. The right brain, left brain combination works everywhere. The creativity, the spontaneity, the instinct, the hunch. Yes, those are very important aspects of also entrepreneurship, the gut feel, because not every time you have to depend only upon data, etc. But having said that, unless and until you meet the customer, unless until we understand the ground realities, the market potential, etc., we are going to get nowhere. So it has to be a right balance between the both right brain and left brain in this particular context. That was just more of my own experience and observation talking out here. So thank you once more, Ujjwal. Thanks for your time and effort. Greatly appreciate it. I'm quite sure the participants would have been able to gain tremendous value through this. And they have their, as you rightly said, just if they are not, if they're finding just filling a set of questions in a 2-page document before they start off on an entrepreneurial journey, to be difficult, well, this doesn't augur well. I'm quite sure they want to start doing it. It will help them to start thinking, putting the thoughts in a much more structured manner.
Thank
so
you.
on that note, I'll hand it back to Karthik. So thank you once more, Ujjwal.
Thank you very much. Don't want to hold up everyone. Just quick one announcement. Only people who submit their file are most likely to get the certificate, also continue the course. So I know some of them have left. And on that note, on behalf of IIITB Innovation Center, I would definitely like to thank you once again for sparing this time. And I think this is just the start, and we will again come back to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And please feel free to connect for any other thing that you think I could help with. The students or the incubatees at IIIT, I'd be very, very happy to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So quickly over to Manoj and Yogeswaran, if you have anything to tell the students.
Hi everyone. Thank you all for joining in. So with this, the assignment link has been shared. Also, the file has been shared with you. I request all of you to work on this and submit it before the next session. So on 19th, 4 p.m. is the deadline. So before you come for the next session, you will have to complete it. Harshit and others, we will also try to email this particular link to all of you. So all of you have it on your emails too. Perfect. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening then. Manoj, anything else to add?
Nothing from my side.
Okay, guys. Have a great evening then. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Yogeshwaran. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.